And now, dispatches from the General.
You got to give a big shout out to everybody who is suffering through the impeachment trial on TV. I mean, I'm just waiting for someone to like faint. Like, it needs an action scene. I don't know how these senators are sitting there. My head would be on the table. I would be throwing tantrums. So shout out to everybody watching it and the senators who have to sit there from like early in the morning till 1 in the morning. These senators are sitting there like they're in fucking detention. So we have to watch it. We have to watch it. You know, it's important viewing, and I think the world really needs a court trial with no witnesses where they make up the rules as they go along. Another shout out to David Onley, who died on stage, right?
Yeah, he died on stage at a singer and songwriters festival in Florida.
Was he popular?
No, not really. I mean, in his circles, he had a good loyal fan base, but he wasn't famous.
And what I heard was he was singing a song. Was there a big audience?
It was a good sized audience there.
And he was singing a song, and he was like 3 songs into his show, and he just stopped and he apologized or something.
He said, "I'm sorry." He looked at the guy he was playing with. He said, "I'm sorry," and then he put his guitar to his chest and went to sleep, and then did not fall off the stool or the guitar touched the ground.
Really?
He died clutching it, and it stayed there, and he just had a heart attack and just went to sleep in front of everybody.
Wow, died on stage.
Yeah, peaceful. The guy was like,
what a way to go!
What a way! Like, that's the way he lived, just peaceful.
What a way to go! You know what? I don't want to die on stage. I want to die at the meet and greet. I've already decided. That's my.
Stick around, get your merch.
Perfect.
You never know.
I want to just have a heart attack and fall over and stab myself with a Sharpie. All right, before we start the show, I want to let everybody know where I'm going to be appearing live.
Jeff's hitting the road going down to Florida for Super Bowl weekend. You're going to be at the Miami Improv, buddy. It's going to be great. You're going to be there Friday and Saturday before the Super Bowl, not during the Super Bowl.
That would be tough.
That would be a hard sell.
Miami Improv. That'll be fun.
Yeah, it's in Doral, Florida. They got 4 shows over 2 days, January 31st and February 1st. Come down and check that out. And also in the following weekend, you're going to Phoenix. 5 shows in 3 days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Okay. When's that?
On 2/6, you're going to be at CB Live, but on 2/7 and 2/8, you got 4 shows at Stand Up Live.
That's a good club.
And then Bumping Mike's back on the road. Texas was fun, I hear. And now you're going to Milwaukee on March 13th at the Pabst Theater. And then on March 14th, you're going to be right outside of Chicago at the Genesee Theater. And go check them out. Des Moines, Iowa on April 3rd at the Hoyt Sherman Place. And April 4th, Kansas City, Missouri at the Uptown Theater. Don't go downtown in Kansas City. It gets seedy.
Kansas City, bumping mics. Come on out, folks. Dave and I are having a lot of fun. All new material.
Man, this would be great. All right.
All right, let's start the show, Ed.
Get ready for Jeff Ross. Do you have thick skin? Let's all come together.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Thick Skin. I'm Jeff Ross. Life is hard, but don't worry, we're getting through it together. Ed planned a great show today. Hi, Ed.
What's going on, bud? How you doing?
I'm really good. Shout out to all our Eshes out there, emotional support humans. Love your support. Love your feedback. I love that you listen. I was just down in Texas doing some bump and mic shows, and so many people told me they're listening to the podcast, which makes me so happy, so proud. Fills me with joy to know that people are getting some laughs and getting their emotional support from us right here. We are back in the bunker today. It's a beautiful day in Hollywood, California. It's Grammys week. It's impeachment week. It's a lot of stuff. This is our little escape from reality. We come down to the bunker, me and Ed, and sometimes we have friends. Sometimes we celebrate life. Sometimes we celebrate death. We're going to do all that today. We're going to have a roast in peace for the great legend, comedy legend, Mr. Peanut, that passed away at the end of the show. Did you know about that?
No.
Mr. Peanut, they're retiring him. And we have a great guest today, a phenomenal guest. He's been my friend for a long time. His name is Jason Flom. He is the big kahuna at Lava Records Music. Did he still say records?
Yeah, we call it lava media these days. You know, we went right into the 21st century. I didn't even call you first. I just I made an executive decision. You know,
it was a smart move on your part.
I should have probably called you. I never make a lot of decisions without calling you because you're the guy who won the Nobel Pizza Prize all those years ago.
See that?
You know?
Thanks
so, I mean,
Are you roasting me already?
No, come on, man. You're famous. I fucking
infamous, baby.
Just another Jew in Hollywood, right? It's amazing. The fucking microphone. It's incredible. Oh, my God.
Besides knowing everything there is to know about popular music and rock and roll and hip-hop and everything else, Jason is a board member and a big supporter of the Innocence Project and other causes, and we're going to talk to him about all that stuff today. So expecting a very lively conversation, hearing about DNA, not impeachment kind of DNA, but DNA that scientists have figured out how to make sure people actually committed the crimes that they get locked up for. I'm going to talk about wrongful conviction, which is also the name of Jason's podcast, which is very popular. Before I do anything else, though, this is just a personal thing. I want to quickly shout out happy birthday to one of my favorite comedians in the world. How old is he? Do we even know?
He's turning 42 years old. You believe that?
President Zelensky, the president of the Ukraine. Now, I've done a deep dive into this guy because how does a comedian become the president of Ukraine? And I've talked to like Russian comedians, and this guy Zelensky, you can look him up on YouTube, but most of his stuff is like on Russian YouTube and stuff because he speaks Russian. But there are a few English-speaking videos of him out there on YouTube, and if you really do a deep dive, you can see some of the shows he's done in the Ukraine, which because he speaks Russian, they were able to sell in Russia. So he spent decades becoming a big star in Russia and is now the president of a rival country. It's amazingly beautiful and makes me even he makes all comedians seem a little less goofy.
I don't want to spoil the surprise, but for your next birthday, I'm actually organizing a write-in campaign for the next Ukraine election. I think you should be the fucking next president over there.
I want to be his roast master in chief.
It would be unbelievable. Or maybe you could just be vice president. That would be unbelievable. And the two of you could be bumping mics in Ukraine. It'd be nuts, right? Fuck Milwaukee, Ukraine. Here you come. Got to go big, Jeff, or go home. Fuck this shit, you know?
You're
nothing against Milwaukee. I like it there, personally.
The Pabst Theater.
Yeah, man. And Pabst, the first drink I ever had, the second drink I ever had was a Pabst Blue Ribbon when I was like a kid, yeah. I got really drunk on it. I didn't even know that was possible, but I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pabst Blue Ribbon.
It takes like 30, 40 of them.
not when you're 9.
A lot of good beer happening in Milwaukee, and probably in the Ukraine too. But I don't know. There's something about this guy. You know, he got into office based on his popularity. He had a TV show called Servant of the People, which went into its 3rd season right when he got elected, and it's about a school teacher who goes on a rant about corruption. One of his students videotapes it. It goes viral, and he gets elected the president of his country. And then all of that happened in real life. So shout out to President Zelensky. If anybody knows him, give him a big hug from me. Tell him to hit us up because that would be my ultimate interview. I don't want to talk about politics with him. I want to talk about comedy. I heard that he's a big Monty Python fan.
That's awesome. I can't wait to hear that episode.
Oh man, R.I.P. Terry Jones too.
Yeah, Terry Jones passed away from the great Monty Python troupe, one of the funniest guys ever.
Yeah.
He did the classic one thin mint, one wafer thin. He played an enormously fat guy that they keep getting fatter and fatter until finally one last mint makes him explode. It's one of the great Monty Python sketches of all time. So, yeah. All right.
How you doing, buddy? You look a little pooped. You just got back from Texas.
Texas knocked me out a little bit, and the fans were so great. The bumping mic shows there were so great.
Where'd you go?
It was San Antonio, the Alamo. I'd never been down there. I had no idea what it even was, and now I'm all woke on the Alamo.
Right.
And,
About time.
Yeah. And I did a show in Austin, which was wonderful. Great crowds.
What a great town, right, Austin? So
Packed out the Paramount Theater, and my nephew was there, and a lot of friends there. A lot of music business people came out to the shows, and then we went to Houston, the Revention Center, and that was Dave Attell's birthday. We had a big bumping Mike's cake, and 2,000 people sang happy birthday to him, and I never saw him so happy. And right on stage, he got like emotional, and he hugged me, and he thanked me for the cake.
What?
And then the hardest thing I had to do all weekend was after the show tell him that I didn't get him the cake, his manager did.
I was just about to get all weepy here, and then you fucking rained right on. It's amazing. A wet blanket.
My comedy wife, Dave Attell, rarely shows emotion, but yeah.
And one of my favorite things you ever did was that jail special, the jail roast that you did, which was Texas too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you may have to get a summer home down there. I mean,
Yeah,
look at
I do love Texas crowds. Thank you
love getting roasted, man. It's crazy.
Texans or inmates?
Both.
Yeah.
But Texans are always down for. I mean, 2 of the 3 specials were in Texas.
Well, because there's a lot there, and big egos love to get roasted. Big personalities love to get roasted.
It's a big state. It's a really complex situation they got going on there, But I like a lot of big states. Austin's like this sort of, liberal bastion of like art and culture, right? In the middle of a state that you wouldn't really think of in those terms. But it is it's an awesome place to go and just see and learn about what goes on down there, and not just Austin, but all over the place.
Well, for some reason, at least the county jail that I went to in Brazos County County Jail, the sheriff there had a lot of autonomy and it was the only freaking jail in America that let me come in and do a stand-up show.
I know. Remember, I was trying to help you with that, and even
Yeah.
I couldn't help you get into these places.
Well,
It
because
was
they know if
crazy.
you get in, then you're taking some people out with you. If I go in, I'm lucky if I'm taking my whole crew out with me.
That's right. The first thing when they search me, they always look for a helicopter. You know what I mean? I'm like, no, it's in the shop. You're good. I'm not bringing anybody out. No files, no helicopters, nothing. Nah, I try to get them out the front door.
And the jail administrator, Wayne Dickey, who actually set the show up with me and allowed me to do it, he's running for sheriff now. So shout out to Wayne Dickey, running for sheriff down in Brazos County.
I want to be friends with a sheriff so bad.
You are. You are going to be friends with the sheriff because I think he's going to win. I got a good feeling about it. Yeah. Getting access to these places. I know that you... I read the Rolling Stone article not too long ago where, they followed you up on a road trip up to Sing Sing.
They did, yeah.
And, before we even get into the nitty gritty of how all this works, of exonerating people, I was thoroughly entertained by the fact that all these family members are waiting hours to see their loved ones, and they bring big shot Jason Flom to the front of the line. So there's a VIP section even in penitentiaries, is what you're saying. So you could get into One Oak and Sing Sing without waiting online. Is that what you're telling the world, Jason?
That's sort of a slight distortion, but you get fucking privilege because it's your podcast, But
who has TSA pre-check at jails? Only you. Only you.
I'm really, I'm really at a loss. I'm never at a loss for words, but I think you got me on that one. I did get the good parking spot. It was funny too because it was cold and raining, and it was like 30-something degrees. Like any colder, it'd be snowing.
Right.
And I parked in the visitors lot and walked all the way down. I was with the reporter, the wonderful journalist Alex Morris from Rolling Stone, and 2 great photographers. And so we walked down in Sing Sing. You got to walk down like, I don't know, 150 steps or something from the parking lot all the way down. I mean, they really don't make it easy.
Right.
I think about the people visiting their grandchildren or whatever. Like, it's not and so it's not really user friendly in that sense. And then I come all the way down there in the rain and the cold and the thing. And then the guy goes, "Oh yeah, you get to park down here." I'm like, "Really?" So I walk back up to get my car to come back. And by now I'm perfectly soaked. I mean, that's why that picture in the article, I look so miserable because not only, I mean, it's difficult. It's emotionally draining to go visit innocent people in prison anyway. But then coming out and being cold and wet and it's like, I was like, okay, take the picture. Let's get in the fucking car.
So what were you doing at Sing Sing?
We visited 2 guys, both of whom were innocent, John Adrienne Velazquez and Bruce Bryant, who have been in respectively for 22 and 27 years.
Wow.
And
you know that they're innocent.
Well, John Adrienne's been the subject. John Adrienne Velazquez, you can look up his case. I mean, Dateline did an extraordinary, series of episodes on his case. An amazing reporter named Dan Slepian, Emmy-winning reporter, and he went deep into this case. And it's a terrible case, and he's serving 25 to life, but there's no question that he didn't do it anymore. I mean, it's like there's no evidence. There was never any evidence that he did. Plus, the eyewitnesses described a guy who was a black guy with dreads, and he's a light-skinned Hispanic guy he's bald. So it's like the thing. It never made any sense, but it was a case where they really. There was a lot of pressure to get it solved. They had one of the 2 perpetrators, and they needed to get the other one because the guy who was killed, tragically, it was a robbery of a bookie joint in Harlem. And this is, of course, like I said, 22, 23 years ago. And the 2 guys who robbed the place shot the owner, and the owner was a retired New York City cop. So you know how that gets. There's a lot of pressure. So the cops
had a vendetta.
They wanted to get the second guy, and they couldn't find him. And so, my understanding is they took a guy who was there, a known heroin dealer, and they brought him to the police station. They said, "You're going to identify somebody, or else it's going to be you." And they just gave him a mugshot.
But why would they? Is that a political thing or an optics thing? If the cops are mad, they lost one of their own. Wouldn't they want to know that they got the right person, or would they just want to handcuff somebody and put them away?
That's a question I struggle with all the time. I mean, whether it's one of their own or whether it's some other innocent person, some other civilian, you'd always want to hope. All of us would want to hope that we get the right person off the street, because otherwise they're free to go commit more terrible crimes.
Yeah, they're just making more work for themselves.
Yeah, and it's like, and then once it's so easy to convict the wrong person, it's so difficult to get them out. And this is a glaring example of that phenomenon. And you know what else is crazy? On top of everything else in this topsy-turvy criminal legal system of ours, is that the actual shooter is a guy, who's known to everyone. He was arrested. He went to prison. He served 10 years, and he's out. Here you got this guy. He's in for 22 years and counting. And, from the looks of things, and with all of our best efforts and an amazing group of advocates and a ton of press on his case, we still can't get him out.
What are the holdups for something like this? Is it a legal issue? Is it a scientific issue? Is it something about the person themselves and how they conduct themselves?
No, that's the farthest thing from it. I mean, JJ's been on honor block pretty much since he went in there. He's an incredibly astute and intelligent and thoughtful guy. He is very well read. I mean, he writes me letters from prison, and I don't even write back because it looks like his letters were written by a Yale law professor or English professor, I should say. And I try to write back like, "Hey, JJ, how you doing?" And I'm like, I sound like a fucking idiot. I can't write to this guy. He's writing me like novels, and I'm like, damn. So I'll just wait till he calls me. I speak to him on the phone because I can't, I can't keep up with that. So he's a brilliant guy. And, forget the fact that he's no threat to society. I've told everybody he has a job waiting. He could come work for me. I'd have him in my home, whatever. I mean, the guy's he's a terrific guy. I visit him so many times. And it's really a searing indictment of our system that a guy like that is still rotting in prison. First of all, 22 years. Like, what even is that? That's insane. That's a whole lifetime for some people,
It's the internet. It's the existence of the internet.
Right.
It's insane.
Yeah, when he went in, that's right. It was probably just in its very beginning, right?
Yeah.
So
97, 98.
What percentage of the people locked up do you think are actually innocent people that were wrongly convicted.
So that's a great question. You know, the social scientists who study this stuff, they've come out with studies. They say it's like 6%. I ask a lot of guys who are in there because I think they're pretty good judges of the people they run into.
Because when I did my show at the jail, I said, if you're innocent, raise your hand, and everybody raised their hand.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, but you were doing a comedy show, so, you know, let's just take that with a grain of fucking
From my
Jewish salt.
experience is 100% of the people in prison are innocent.
I don't think that's accurate. But even if you take a relatively conservative number like 6%, you know, right there you're at about 100,000 people in prison in America who are innocent because our system is so out of whack and
Right.
so out of step with the rest
We
of the
have
world.
more people
Massive.
locked up than any other country.
We have more people locked up than Russia and China combined, right? It's like this is insanity. But furthermore, that doesn't take into account the people who are in jail, right? Because people in jail, and people don't, you know, most people who are listeners don't probably realize this, but you know, jail is actually more dangerous than prison by and large. There's more violence, there's more disease, there's more hardship in
Right.
jails. And
People that are still under investigation, still about to have a trial, they go to jail. The more in the short, just for people who are really not
well, they haven't been
jumping into the
convicted of
subject.
anything,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So
People
that's-
that have been arrested stay at jail. When they actually get convicted and have to serve a long sentence, they go to prison.
That's right. So the problem is that jails are
A lot
chaotic.
of a lot of people use those words interchangeably, and it took me a long time to really understand the difference.
And I think, too, many people think of jail as like a relatively benign place, right? You have
Right.
that old image from old TV black and white shows, right, where the guy's smoking a pipe, he's leaning
Right.
back in his chair. No,
Right.
jails
Andy
are,
Griffith, the town drunk, is the only one in there, and
you know, to give you an idea, like Harris County Jail in Texas, I think around about 10 people a year are murdered or die under suspicious circumstances, awaiting trial every year there. Just awaiting trial. We'll never know whether those people were innocent or guilty because they never got a day in court. And so it's you know, and that's unfortunately not atypical. I mean, we have in America about 5,000 people die in jails and prisons in America every year. So you can do the math. It's pretty grim. Now, of course, there's this horrible scandal in Mississippi where so many people who have been locked up are dying, being murdered inside the jail. It's like a third world country. But the thing is, if you go back to the numbers, right? If you take the 6% in prison that are guilty, in jail, it stands to reason that it's many, many times higher than that.
Right.
So it must be 30% or whatever. So that's why there's been this big movement now to abolish bail, which I'm all in favor of. I've been involved with that for a long time because it's a crazy system we have where, you know, it's a violation of the 6th and the 14th Amendment, money bail, right? Because you can't
it favors the rich.
equal protection and due process. If you and somebody else who has no money both get arrested tonight for shoplifting or whatever it is, you know, and you both go to jail, you'll shell out the dough and you'll go home and you'll be at the strip club with Ed before you fucking know it, right?
Right.
Whereas whoever the other guy is or woman is going to be stuck in jail indefinitely. And that's why, and I think this number will probably shock a lot of people, but 97% of felony convictions in America are a result of guilty pleas. And it's not hard to understand because if you're in one of these places and you're getting at risk of getting stabbed every day, you're losing your job, you've lost your freedom, you could be losing your house, you know, you're living week to week, a lot of people paycheck to paycheck. And they say, listen, you got an easy way out. Just plead guilty. You're going to go, fuck it, man. I got to get out of here. I can't stay here. They could keep you there a year or more waiting for trial. Well, you know, the whole thing of speedy trial in this country, it's not real. It's an illusion.
Right.
They convince you to plead guilty because if they say you plead guilty, then you only spend we'll just give you 15 years. But if you go to trial and you're found guilty, you're going to get life.
Yeah, or it could be much less than that. It could be we'll sentence you to time served, you know, but now you're going to have a conviction on your record. So the next time something else comes up, it's going to get worse and worse for you. Plus, just from having that conviction on your record, now you're barred from voting, you're barred from student loans, you're barred from a lot of housing, different jobs. You know, there's it's a really slippery slope. But faced with that decision and with a choice of risking your life and being
Right.
stuck in that jail, and you know they do this thing too in a lot of places where they bring you to court, and you go to court, and then you get there, and the prosecutor may not be able to go, well, Judge, I'm not ready for this. You know, I haven't had time. You know, we've been dealing with a different case, whatever. And the judge goes,
Right.
all right, this is adjourned. Come back in a month.
Right.
You're going back to jail.
Right.
You know, and you know what's really crazy too? I was talking to somebody about this the other day, about how this was the guy who was stuck in jail for 3 weeks during his trial, but for a long time before that, about a year, 18 months before that. dealing with violence. He said it was so violent in there. He said the worst thing he saw was a guy get his throat slit in church in jail. And he said, but there were gladiator fights. There's all kinds of stuff going on. But he says, the thing about it is when you go to trial, they wake you up at 3 a.m. to bring you to the court.
Right.
Then you sit in this holding cell there. And then you go to court, you've had almost no sleep because they don't bring you back until 11 or 12 at night. So if you're lucky, you're getting 3 hours of sleep. And then you're expected to be able to be a participant in your own defense.
Right.
And you get on the stand, you look half fucking crazy, right? You've been in one of the most violent places in the world anyway, but now you're also sleep deprived.
Right.
You probably haven't had anything to eat.
Right.
And you're up there trying to figure out what the hell's going on. I mean, it's really, the system needs
It's torture.
It's torture, yeah.
Can I ask you something? All these innocent people that are in prison, not even allegedly, how many people is the Innocence Project freed approximately?
The Innocence Project in New York, where I serve on the board, we're over 200. I don't know the exact number now. It
these
keeps
hundreds
growing.
of people, and you got to imagine thousands and thousands are still locked up and they're innocent. Now, if you're there a week in jail, a couple weeks in jail, a year in jail, and you go to prison, you're talking about your friend JJ at Sing Sing, 22, 23 years in prison. You'd think he's a great person, and he'll come out and be somebody that you trust. There's got to be so many people that go to prison innocent and then get criminalized just to stay alive. I mean, that's another sin, is that good people are they're spending their whole life in there. They must become hardened criminals once they get in there.
Well, some of them have to do, things to survive in there, because depending which prison you're in, it can be a really, really dangerous situation, especially if you're alone. So they may have to join up with a group in order to be protected. Some convert to different religions in order to have the protection of that group. Some of them do more sinister things because, and unless you've walked a mile in their shoes, I don't think any of us can judge them. I mean, these places are, we went in this country a generation ago. Or maybe 2 generations ago, we went from a country where the goal of incarceration was rehabilitation to where it became punishment.
Right.
And I'm hoping that for everybody's sake, the pendulum has to swing back in the other direction, because every study that's been done has shown if you provide hope inside, if you provide education, right? And people go, why would we provide education? I got to pay for my kids' education.
Yeah.
Well, because it's good for everybody. Because people that even get a little bit of education in prison, the recidivism rate goes down by like 95%.
Those people are coming out, most of the people in jail are coming out eventually. And they're our neighbors, they're our coworkers, they're our family members, our future family members. It's that guy that your cousin's going to marry. I mean, you gotta giving people hope and education, some dignity while they're locked up. I mean, that's so important. That's us.
Yeah, and that's the way they do it in Western Europe and other parts of the world. Now we have a movement where a number of correction officials from America have been going over and touring prisons in Scandinavia and Western Europe to see how they do it over there. Like there was a thing on 60 Minutes where they showed the prison in Germany, maximum security prison, and the cell doors have locks, but they lock from the inside. So you can lock your door and you can be in there, privately, and you can open your door when you want to. And it's like
a human being.
Like a human being, yeah. And they're, I've heard in Norway, Norway, they take it to an extreme. I mean, some of the prisons there look better than college campuses here, but which is a separate problem because that system's falling apart here too. But over there, they treat you with real dignity. And the warden, I've heard at this one prison, when you get there, he says exactly what you just said. He says, when you guys get out, you're going to be potentially my neighbors. And I want to make sure that you are, not treated humanely and fairly, so that when you come out, you can, get back on your feet, get back to the community. They do it the opposite way that we do it. And our way is not, it's just horrible. I mean, have you seen what's going on in Mississippi right now with Parchman Prison?
No.
Holy shit. So Parchman Prison, which I've known about this for a while because I've been trying to help a guy in Mississippi get out. So far, I have not been able to get him out, but he's been in for 21 years already. But the fact is that, guy named Sharon Edwards. But the thing is, he told me about Parchman because he was there before. So none of this stuff surprised me when I heard it. But what happened is, over the last couple of weeks,
This is broken in the news.
all hell broke out there. There's been, we don't even know how many, but recently they said they found 2 more dead guys there. Now they won't really say when these guys were killed, but somewhere between 10 and 25 people that were locked up there were murdered over the course of about a week. And this is during a lockdown. So
a third world country.
It's exactly. I mean, it's so nuts. And the pictures came out because a lot of guys in prison in Mississippi have phones because the guards make minimum wage. I mean, almost minimum. They make 25 grand there, right? So they got to make a living. And I'm not judging them. They got to support their families. If the way they got to support their families by bringing in phones, then I mean, I'm not endorsing that behavior, but I'm just saying, like, okay, so what do you expect?
It's like Chris Rock says, you get what you pay for.
Give them a living wage, exactly. So anyway, so
the inmates have phones and they're taking pictures of the crime
and videos, and not only that, Jeff, but there was a video that came out. I can show it to you, where a couple of guys, the state said, well, we're transferring these guys into a secure facility. What they really meant was, they were transferring some of them into a notorious part of the prison called Unit 32, I think it is. And Unit 32 has been condemned for 10 years. So this video came out of these guys walking through this abandoned prison cell block where there's no heat, there's no water, there's no electricity, there's black mold everywhere. There's water, like sitting water on the floors. Everything's cracking. And you're like, what are we doing? Like, what? There's animals in there. God knows what. I mean, it's Mississippi, right? So God knows what kind of animals have made that their home. It's like, this is America? Like, what the hell's going on here? These are human beings. I don't care what they did. I mean, some of them probably did some bad things, but that doesn't mean they deserve to be treated this way.
Right, of course.
So
made you, Yeah,
anyway, go ahead.
I mean,
now the whole audience is depressed. They're like, "Oh my God, I thought you could hear some jokes. This show sucks. I'm so depressed now."
Well, this show is a funny show, but it's also about, I call it thick skin. It's the other side of roasting. It's the other side of life. It's not dishing it out. It's taking it, and helping people makes you feel better. I know you long enough to know that, and I do want to ask you about music and Grammys Week and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and all that in a second. But, before I even knew you as a music guy, I feel like I kind of got to know you through, criminal justice reform and how you exonerate people. And, what would make a guy who's signing Katy Perry and Kid Rock to record deals want to just take his weekend and drive upstate to Sing Sing or to fly around? Just today, you were in my living room calling a parole officer, right, or a parole board person, and you also have a family and other stuff you have to worry about. So I'm just curious, like, what's the drive there? You're the kind of guy that could write a check and sleep well at night, but, you're doing the work, which is more than almost anybody does.
Well, I appreciate that. It makes me feel good. I call it selfish altruism. You know what I mean? Like, I think all altruism is selfish to some degree. If you want to go build a house for somebody in one of the, in Haiti or whatever, and you want to take pictures and put it on Instagram, as far as I'm concerned, go for it. You know what I mean? Like, if you deserve, I think everybody deserves to feel good if they're doing something good for somebody else. And so, for me, I don't know. I really get a lot of joy out of being able to help people that nobody else really cares about.
You talk about Katy Perry.
That's right. Well, at one time that may have been true, by the way. When I signed her, nobody cared about Katy Perry. That's for sure.
I'm sure she loves you telling people that.
Well, she probably tells the story differently, but but no, we did great together, and she's a great talent, and as we all know, but that's beside the point. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, it's just in my DNA.
Was there one case that grabbed your attention? I know you've been doing this like 20 years or something.
Yeah, 27 now.
Was there one thing? Was it the Rodney Reed case?
No, well, that's recent. That's a very recent case. No. Back in the early 90s, I heard about a case of a guy in Rolling Stone magazine wrote about this. I heard about a case of a guy named Stephen Lennon who was serving 15.
That's the one I was
yeah.
thinking of.
Yeah, he was serving 15 to life on a nonviolent first offense cocaine possession charge. And, I read this story in the newspaper, and it's a longer story. I'm not going to tell the whole thing now, but and it's in the Rolling Stone article. But I read this story, and my whole sense of fairness was thrown out the fucking window. I was like, what the hell's going on here? Like, nonviolent first offense, coke, what the fuck? I mean, that, and I had my own issues with substance abuse when I was a kid, and I was like, hey, that could have been me, wrong place, wrong time, So...
Yeah, my dad used to put it on his hamburgers.
There you go. You see what I mean? That's how this happened. Okay. Now we're getting to the origin story. Oh, my God. He might have put it on something else, too. But that's beside the point. So yeah, I decided I had to do something about it. And I was too naive to know that it was impossible. So I just tried to do it anyway. And then 6 months later, I ended up in a courtroom in Malone, New York. I only knew one criminal defense lawyer back then. It was a guy named Bob Kalina. And I knew him because... at the time, 2 of my artists were Stone Temple Pilots and Skid Row, and they were getting arrested twice a week, so I had the fucking guy speed dial, So I got Bob to take the case pro bono, something different than, and we ended up in a courtroom in Malone, New York, 6 months later, and I sat there holding Stephen Lennon's mother, Shirley, holding her hand, and the judge, he banged the gavel down and lessened the charges. He didn't drop the charges, but he reduced the charge from an A1 to an A2 felony and sent Stephen home. And I was like, holy shit, that was fun. That's the best feeling
Getting
I ever had.
somebody off, I can't imagine.
Yeah, exactly. It was. I mean, look, having kids is in a whole different category. But other than that, that was the best feeling I ever had. So I was like, I'm gonna do more of that.
Freeing somebody.
Freeing somebody was
someone
amazing.
life.
Yeah, it was great. And so
there's that famous story where you snuck up on Bill Clinton at an event while he was leader of the free world.
Well, I didn't exactly sneak up on him. I just moved the place cards at the table around, so I got to sit right across from him.
Who did you fuck in that scenario? Who did you screw over? Whose place card?
That would be a good thing to know.
Probably Jeff Zucker.
Yeah, that was a pretty smooth move. I didn't know. I just I decided something I needed to do. I had to get his attention. I had to talk to him about some cases. And
did you hand him some names? Did you just sort of say something?
No, I ended up handing him a letter that from a woman in prison. I think it was a woman named Amy Pofel, and it was somebody who he had granted clemency to, who I knew about, which was a mandatory sentencing case in Arkansas. And he read the letter at the table, and he folded it up and put it in his pocket. And I said, Mr. President, granted clemency recently for 5 people, but it's wonderful what you did. It's a very heroic act, Right. But I said, but I know of hundreds of other cases just as bad as those. And he looks at me, Jeff, and he goes, you get them to me, and I'll sign them. And everybody at the table was like, what the fuck am I even watching happen right now, right? Wow. And so I said to him, then I was like, okay, then I said the only smart thing I could think of to say, which was, well, Mr. President, after tonight, you're not going to be the easiest guy for me to get on the phone. I don't think you're giving me your number. Right. So how would I go? I said it more respectfully than that, but I said, how am I going to get, these cases to you? And he, pointed out someone in the room was one of his aides. And then he says, you'll talk to him. You'll go through Bruce Lindsay at the Justice Department. Has to go through this procedure. Here's the type of cases we'll consider, da-da-da. Oh. And then I went and found a bunch of cases. And, he ended up signing off on 17 of them. So,
wow.
Yeah, that was great. That was an exciting. And all those
was that sort of where in his run did all that
at the very end. It was last week. It might have been the last couple of days in office. I mean, he gave me 2 of them in December. And I was like, what the hell? That's not what he promised, because I had asked for 23. And then I found 2 more and added those to the list. And that was a lucky one I got those in.
I've only had a little taste of seeing moments like that when people get sort of exonerated is not the word, but, people that were actually guilty of nonviolent drug offenses serve a lot of time, and then to see them not as they come out, but talking about it weeks later, just a few weeks later. I went to a celebration at the White House for the First Step Act, which I believe freed 500 people or something.
I think it's about 3,000 now, so
it's great. So
it's a first step, but it is we got a long way to go.
But just seeing that moment there of somebody who was in jail suddenly, at the White House being celebrated, to me, there's almost nothing could be more emotional than that.
No, and I think we need to change our attitudes about all this stuff. I mean, these are not bad people. They're people. Some of them did bad things, you know what I mean? But they're not bad people. And the fact is that some of them come from backgrounds where they had almost no options other than to commit illegal acts, and some of them even violent acts, you know. And my attitudes have evolved on people that are quote unquote violent criminals as well, right? Now, obviously, I'm not in favor of violent crime. You know, I want to live in a safe society like everybody does. But you know, you take for example my friend James Anderson, right? He was a guy who grew up in a terrible. He's got a video online called "Am I Still a Criminal?" And he grew up in the worst imaginable scenario. His mother was addicted to crack. His father was violent and abusive and doing all sorts of other bad stuff. And by the time he was 14, they had him involved in crystal meth. His brother was you know, selling it, and you know, and to get to school, he had to walk through the gang areas, and like it was just like he had nothing but violence in his life. And you know, he tried to take his own life when he was a teenager, and his father came home and he said he asked for help because he'd taken a whole bottle of pills. And his dad said, "You want to die so bad? I'll show you how to do it." He beat him up instead of taking him to the hospital. So he was like, at that point, he's like, "Fuck it, you know what? No one else cares about me." So he joined a gang, and he ended up getting convicted of stabbing 2 people. He didn't kill him, but and I don't know. He's never talked to me about whether it was a fight of self-defense, whatever it was. But he was a tough bad guy. I mean, he's the guy, you know, with the gang signs and the you know, like the guy you we're all supposed to be scared of, right? And he was a scary guy. But he was lucky. He was 17, and he got sentenced to 7 years instead of 35 like his friend did, who was 18 or 19, whatever he was. And in prison, one guard was nice to him and showed him, you know, kindness. And that was the first person that had ever shown him any appropriate form of affection. And he ends up coming out afterwards, and he's graduated from UCLA. He started a nonprofit organization with my friend Scott Budnick called the Anti-Recidivism Coalition. He started a clothing company called Los Mayores. He's traveled the world. He's been to the White House with Obama. He was on Governor Brown's commission of this. And there's actually a Shepard Fairey mural of his face in Philadelphia. I mean, the guy is living his best life. And his thing is, am I still a criminal to you? You know, like, this guy stays at my house. I mean, there's nothing scary about him. The problem was, and his brother's doing great now. His brother went to prison for, I think, 9 years. And his brother's now, you know, he went through a coding program. There's a coding program that he participated in the prison. Now he's out working in Silicon Valley, doing great, you know. So there's so much human potential behind there. You know, it's like in the Rolling Stone article, Bruce Bryant, the other innocent guy I visited, he said, you know, you meet some of the best people in some of the worst places. And it's amazing the human potential that's being lost in these, you know, facilities.
It's so sad when you think about that.
It's horrible. And I want to say, before we turn to music or whatever you want to talk about, for people who are out there listening, you know, if you ever get picked up and brought in for questioning, and you're innocent, or even if they say, we just want to talk to you, you know, Jeff, you're just a witness, you know, whatever.
Right.
You know the 4 words you need to know, the only 4 words you need to know?
What?
I want a lawyer.
Right.
And then shut the fuck up.
Right.
Because once you go in there, you can say your name and I want a lawyer and stop talking, because they will paint the picture and they'll weave a web and they'll put you in a corner that you can't get out of. And then a lot of people end up confessing the crimes they didn't even commit in that room because they don't know, they can't get out. They don't know what to do.
Right.
By the way, you also are allowed to leave. No one realizes that. You see these horrible interrogation tapes like Brendan Dassey, right?
Yeah.
All these people where they confess to these crimes they didn't commit. And the tragic thing about it is they don't have anybody there to help them. So I always say, and, you know, 85% of people waive their Miranda rights, especially innocent people. Because you go in there, you go, no, I don't need any lawyer or anything. I'm just going to tell the truth, and I'd be home in time for, you know, to watch the news, you know, at dinner.
Right.
But that's not the way it works. You don't waive your Miranda rights. They're there for a reason. And you unless you're the type of person that likes performing surgery on yourself, like if you need your appendix taken out.
Right.
I mean, it's literally that, it's that serious, right? You need a fucking lawyer in there in order that you don't get trapped into saying or doing something that may actually destroy your life.
Am I under arrest?
Right.
You know, like,
am I under arrest?
Yeah.
If not, I would like to go home now.
Yeah.
That's it. And you walk out. They can't hold you if you're not under arrest, but you don't know that. So you sit there in that room for 20 hours, 30 hours, and finally you confess to kidnapping the Lindbergh baby because you just got to get the fuck out of there. You know?
Right. Or you say something that you can later someone can figure out, well, you may have been in the right neighborhood that see in a different location. Like, you don't know what you're saying that could lead to something else. So.
We've had cases, Jeff, where people confessed to crimes they didn't commit and came out of that room believing that they actually did it because they got so brainwashed. I was just reading about a case in 1964 where an 8-year-old confessed to murdering his parents. They were stabbed to death. And he had strangulation marks on his neck. He went in there, he said, yeah, a guy came in the house and strangled me, and then he went and stabbed mommy and daddy. They ended up getting this kid to confess. What the fuck are we talking about? I mean, now, granted, that was 64, but nothing's really changed. I mean, you have a system that is broken from the bottom up. You know, we need a better defense bar. We need higher pay for, you know, for legal aid people, you know, people who are representing indigent defenders. You know, they're struggling. There's that great movie, Gideon's Law, or I think it's called Gideon's Law, which profiles these people trying to do their best, and meanwhile scraping quarters out of their couch to try to get enough money to get gas to get to the court to defend their clients. Some of them are handling hundreds of cases at a time. And that's the thing about pleading guilty too, right? You go in there and your lawyer comes in and goes, "What's your name again? Stu?" Right. You're like, "No, Jeff." You're like, "What?" And the guy's like, "Steve?" No, no. What are you convicted of? What are you at? No, I'm not convicted. You know, you just sit there and go, "Oh, what are my chances here?" And the government's got endless resources. So, you know, it's really.
You see a lot of bad lawyers.
Yeah, we see too many of them. I mean, Bruce Bryant.
Lazy lawyers, maybe, is a better word.
Well, I mean, we've had lawyers. I mean, look, I think that there should be a rule where if your lawyer, after your conviction, within a certain time period, whether it's a week, a month, 2 months, a year, whatever it is, gets disbarred for, you know, terrible behavior, and your case is part of that, you should automatically be entitled to a new trial. But you're not.
Right.
And we see these cases. There's a case I'm working on death row in Texas, a guy named Rob Will. His appellate lawyer had fucking Parkinson's, and she submitted. We didn't know that at the time. I wasn't involved back then. But his lawyer submitted a 29-page brief. Now he sentenced to death, which was copied word for word and typo for typo from another brief she submitted on behalf of another client. She just scratched out the names and put in a different name. I mean, you tell me, you know what I mean? Like, this is a death penalty case, for fuck's sakes. And there was that famous case in Texas years ago where a guy appealed his death sentence because his lawyer slept through big portions of the trial. And the appellate court in Texas, whether the Supreme Court or the appellate court, I can't remember, ruled 2-1 that the Constitution says you're entitled to a lawyer, but not necessarily one that's awake.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, that's a real thing. You can look it up. Like, what
physically has to be there.
I mean, it sounds like a punchline or something, right? But it's not. It happened, you know? So, no, I mean, look. And
you hear about these woke lawyers. I didn't realize they meant it literally.
Yeah, right.
Listen, yeah.
And another other thing I'll say for anyone in the audience, you know, go to jury duty. If you get called, it's annoying. We all know it. It's big imposition. You get that letter. You're like, oh, no, man, I'm going to go to jury duty.
Interesting.
Got to go, man. You got to go. And if you're listening to us now, you're understanding some of the problems that happen, you know, whether it's, you know, incompetent defense or eyewitnesses who are incentivized, right? Snitches. You know, you have eyewitness misidentification, number one cause of wrongful convictions. So, and
misidentification.
And even if
in other words, like, who was it, and they point to the wrong person.
Especially if it's cross-racial, that's so unreliable. It's actually worse than guessing. You know, people are pretty good at identifying members of their own race, which is what makes the thing with John Adrienne Velazquez so weird too, because these are people who said it was a black guy, a dark-skinned black guy, and he's a, you know, light-skinned Hispanic. They didn't make a mistake like that, but by and large, the mind does not work like a camera. You know, there's been experiments after experiments that show that eyewitness identification is about as accurate as guessing. So all I'm saying is it's supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, supposed to be reasonable doubt. You know, Benjamin Franklin said it's better that 100 guilty men go free than the one innocent should suffer. And I'm saying even if it's a confession, you need to have some corroborating evidence. If nothing else matches, then you can't just go in there and go, well, the motherfucker confessed.
Right.
Because around 25% of the convictions that we've overturned with DNA
were confessions.
Really? Yeah. And you know, when you get into it and you listen to my podcast, Wrongful Conviction, you'll hear some of these cases. And we're actually launching a whole season called False Confessions on February 19th with Laura Nyrider and Steve Drizzen, where they're going to dive into these false confession cases. And they're going to take you through how these things happen with the tapes, with the audio tapes. I mean, it's crazy, and everybody has the same reaction you do. I'd never confess to a crime I didn't commit. Yes, you would. You know,
If you were that confused or scared
or you're being beaten or whatever it is, you know, I mean, it's like, you know, I was just reading about this
Especially if you don't know anything, you have a horrible education and you've been poor your whole life and you haven't you have nothing.
Oh, yeah. Or if you're under 25, you know, those are the most common false confessions. I think you'll find this interesting is people under the age of 25, because we know the adolescent brain doesn't fully develop till you're 25, or people who are in the military. Strangely enough, people in the military will confess much more often than civilians.
Why is that?
Because they're used to obeying orders and they're used to you know, obeying authority figures, and you know,
and covering for your buddy.
I was just reading about this case of a guy named Anderson, who's an airman and stationed in the South somewhere, and his buddy's house was broken into, and his buddy's wife and baby were killed. Brutal. She was raped. Baby was killed. It's a horrible, horrible crime. And they brought him in for questioning. He knew nothing about it. They interrogated him for, I think, 50 hours, you know. And finally they said, and they can lie to you in the interrogation, by the way. They're allowed to lie to you. So they tell him, listen, you passed the polygraph. They say you failed the polygraph. They say, we found the murder weapon. We got your fingerprints on it. And your whole idea of reality starts getting screwed up. And finally they said to him, listen, your wife said you did it. She said you came home that night and said they knew he couldn't have done it. There was physical evidence that proved he couldn't have done it.
Right.
But they said your wife said you did it. And here's the deal, buddy. They go, you know, the problem is she's now complicit in this. So we're going to arrest her too. Your kids are going to be orphans. We're going to put them in foster care, you know. So what do you want to do here? Like, you know, be a man, take the fucking fall. You know you did it.
You'll be out in less time.
I mean, and of course it was, luckily in his case, it was overturned in not that long, but you know, he was, I mean, after that many hours, he got so confused, he started wondering if he did do it. But meanwhile, the actual killer confessed not long afterwards. And, you know, but that's crazy too, because sometimes, you know, I recently just recorded a podcast with Julie Ray from Illinois. Unbelievable woman. It's so powerful. I mean, and she was a doctoral candidate with a 10-year-old boy, a single mom, you know, no problems in the family, no problems whatsoever. And her home was broken into. She was asleep and woke up, and she went into the bedroom to check on her son, and he was gone. And then she's wandering around the house, you know, in the daze looking for her son, bumps into the actual killer, right, who then starts fighting with her.
Wow.
Oh, it's a legit horror movie, right? And she was a black belt in Taekwondo, but she didn't know that anything was wrong. She couldn't figure out where her son was, and she thought, why are you in my house? She was trying to help the guy. There's something wrong. Where's my son? And he starts beating on her, and then he tries to run away. She grabs onto him. He drags her out into the yard. Then he throws her head down on the pavement, whatever. And finally, she goes to the neighbor's house. They call 911, and actually the first cop that showed up at the crime scene threw up, because the kid had been stabbed to death, and which doesn't do anything to help the crime scene either. But they never investigated. They never checked for fingerprints. The knife had been taken out of her butcher block. The actual killer was a guy named Tommy Lynn Sells, who was a serial killer of children. He would go, this was his MO. He would break into people's houses very quietly and go in and kill the kid and then leave. And he, you know, in his case, even after he confessed, he was arrested ultimately, and there's a lot more to this story, but he was arrested and was on death row in Texas, and the detectives went down and interviewed him, and he said he confessed to this crime, among others, in great detail. He knew things that had never been publicized. He knew details that no one else could have known except the killer. And they came back, and her conviction was overturned, and the prosecutor came back and said, I'm going to retry you. And her lawyer, now she had a very good lawyer the second time around, and she had been in at this point, and she had been brutalized in prison. I mean, the things that happened to her are unspeakable in prison, from the inmates as well as the guards. You know, she was a child killer, and also she was a beautiful young woman, and you don't even want to know. But that's beside the point. You know, her lawyer, who was on my podcast, Wrongful Conviction, with Julie, he was talking about, they go back in for this hearing, and he goes to the judge and says, Your Honor, are we really going to go through this exercise? The actual killer confessed to the detectives in great detail. And the prosecutor says, oh, no, we found a loophole. We're never going to allow that testimony into the courtroom. And it's like, and you sit there and go,
for what purpose?
And by the way, and had they caught this guy in the first place, he wouldn't have gone on and killed multiple other kids that he did. But for what purpose exactly? Like, what is going on there? How could anything go so far wrong that type of evil could exist. But she went through another trial. They sent her back to jail to wait for another trial.
The judge doesn't want to embarrass the other judge. The lawyers don't want to seem like they were incompetent. There's also always optics and politics and reputations at stake. And that's just another piece of fucking human dust they want to throw away. Who cares?
And 80% of judges are former prosecutors, so, you know.
They get it. That's their colleagues.
I mean, you know, I'm not saying, look, I think there's a lot of good people in the system. I think there's a lot of good, you know, a lot of good people throughout the system, but the bad ones are capable of really doing unbelievably terrible things, like in her case. I mean, this poor woman was, you know, what kind of a fate is that to go through, you know, like to lose your kid?
I would kill myself if I was in jail for 20 years for something I didn't do.
Yeah,
I don't think I'd last 1 year if I thought I had 20 more to go.
I don't know.
Khalif Browder, man.
Huh?
Khalif Browder, the kid who killed himself after spending 3 years in Rikers solitary for no reason.
No reason for allegedly stealing a backpack that they ultimately dropped the charges.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, his name will live forever. I mean, that case makes me too sad. I couldn't even watch the movie. I couldn't fucking watch it.
I do love how you name drop all the people that are still stuck behind bars. I think that's so important.
Yeah,
You know,
we can't forget about them.
They're human beings.
Most record executive guys would just name drop other record executive guys.
Yeah, right.
And
by the way,
you drop more names than Oscar Schindler. I've never seen anything like it.
yeah, right. And I'm going to post on my Instagram, actually, for the next day or so. Once in a while, I post a list of people who are locked up, who are innocent, and with their address, so people want to write letters to them. It means a lot. You know, if they get a letter in there, know that somebody on the outside cares. So my Instagram, if anybody wants to follow, it's Jason Flom. It's ITS Jason Flom, FLOM, a.k.a. President Oflama. You know
he also posts a lot of cute animal videos, and you're doing great work, buddy. You really are. The podcast, it's very popular. It's called Wrongful Conviction. Look it up on iTunes and everywhere you see podcasts.
And Joe Rogan, if you're listening, you know, anytime you want to have me on your show, I'm all yours. I would love to talk about
breaking
this stuff.
news. He's not listening.
Fuck.
We do a segment on this show, Jason, called Touchy Subjects, and we're hoping you'll stick around for that and our Roast in Peace segment. So here we go, Ed. It's time for Touchy Subjects.
Touchy subjects.
All right, so it's the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. There's some winners who got in, and there's some that got snubbed. And it'd be fun to get Jason's take on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Ed, who got in?
The new inductees are Whitney Houston, the Doobie Brothers, Depeche Mode, T-Rex, Notorious B.I.G., Nine Inch Nails, and Irving Azoff and John Landau.
Wow. All right. That's pretty good. Before we get to the snubs, let's just look at those real quick. Whitney Houston, you think she deserved to get in? Of course she did.
Well, that's
one of the great rock and rollers of all time.
That's an interesting
Not her
thing.
singing, but the way she could trash a hotel room. I think she deserves to get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
You just like her because you love going to Houston and making people laugh. But that's a separate issue, Jeff. This has nothing to do with Texas.
I see.
No, this is a woman. She was a woman. She was a singer. She was great.
Right.
Whitney Houston, great singer. And as far as I know, never did any rock and roll songs or anything. You know, I think that's a very contentious topic right now. Like, I think people are wondering why Jethro Tull's not in there. You know what I mean?
Well, it's a touchy
and I know I am.
Touchy, like I said, these are touchy subjects.
These are touchy subjects.
Whitney getting in. Her biggest hit was "I Will Always Love You," which was about crack, I think. Right?
It was written by Dolly Parton, so start with that. You know what I mean?
Oh,
and
okay.
Yeah, you didn't know that? Yeah,
I did. I forgot.
Dolly Parton wrote that song. Unbelievable. I'd like to have a piece of those royalties. But anyway, yeah, there's not a lot of rock and roll about that song. You know, very good song though. But yeah, I don't know. Like it's a touchy subject.
Whitney Houston.
You know what she did that is rock and roll was Super Bowl 25 when she sang the national anthem when the whole country was scared and on edge during the Gulf War and we didn't know what was going on. It was our first war in like 20 years. Oh. You know, like, and she came out and she sang the national anthem when they were going to shut down the whole fucking Super Bowl, and she killed it. And that was to me, that's a legendary moment.
That means she gets to go in the Badass Hall of Fame. You know, it's a different Hall of Fame. You know, but I think
I agree. Pat Benatar should be in there.
I'm not a huge Benatar fan, but it's a question of
Pat Benatar got snubbed.
You
don't think Pat Benatar should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
The Runaways.
What?
The Runaways.
The Runaways. Yeah, we can agree on that. But
Wait, hold on. Pat Benatar?
what's her 5 greatest songs that you love?
Hit Me With Your Best Shot. All right.
I mean,
Pat Benatar has a lot of great songs. She's awesome.
she does. She has so many that you remembered all one of them.
Well, it's a long time ago, and she doesn't really stay relevant. She's not out there. But if she was still touring, she'd probably be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame today. Love is for Children. Is that what it was called?
No, that's not good. You can't say that on air. No, the Love is a Battlefield.
Love
that's
is a
the song.
Battlefield. Yeah.
I don't know, man. That's
And she was so hot. She was like one of my first crushes.
okay. Well, this
Hit me with your best shot. That song's gonna make a resurgence.
Yeah.
One of these presidential candidates will use it as their theme song or something.
Yeah, no, I don't. I'm not. I can't get with that one, Pat Benatar. I'm okay with her being on the sidelines. So I don't know. I'm not a fan. People can send me, whatever nasty.
What about the
DMs.
Doobie Brothers? They got into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame this week.
Yeah, Doobie Brothers, man. I don't know. Like they had some great fucking songs, right?
Jesus, it's just all right with me.
That was a great song. China
I
Grove,
kind of agree
right?
because for me, Jesus is just all right.
I
Like nothing special. So I'm down with the Doobie Brothers.
I think he feels the same way about you, but I can't prove it. But he was actually, Jesus was, and I'm an irreligious guy, but Jesus was pretty all right as far as I could tell. I mean, he stood. The funny thing is, if he came back now, people would be like, "That fucking libtard." They wouldn't even let him in the country for starters, right?
Right.
There's no way that guy could. He's a Middle Eastern Jew. Right? Mother was a prostitute? No, he's not getting in.
He would never have made the cut.
He ain't getting in.
The Doobie Brothers was a much better name than their previous name, the Jointer Sisters.
Wait, with the Doobie Brothers?
The Spleefer Cousins.
Which one are we talking about?
The Doobie Brothers.
Yeah, the Doobie Brothers. I don't know. They had some good songs. China Grove was great.
Take Me by the Hand. Blackwater. Yeah, they were great.
Great song, man. Come on. I mean, so I think, I wasn't like a huge fan, but I love those songs.
I got real into them. When I lived in Tallahassee for 5 years, and you don't have a choice when you're down there. They're all over the classic rock stations, the southern rock stations.
Well, listen, there were better ones. Leonard Skinner, for instance, but they've been in for a long
they've
time.
Been in, yeah.
They've been in for a long time. Who else got in? Depeche Mode.
Depeche Mode. Take them or leave them for me.
I never was a big fan, but man, I remember when they closed down Sunset Boulevard, and the shit was fucking incredible. Like they're big influence on music, and they had huge concert tours. I mean, I can see that. They
so sad.
Yeah, it's depressing music.
Mopey, fucking. I don't know. I couldn't get them. Joy Division. I can't get into it.
Yeah, little known fact: Depeche Mode was actually the music that Whitney Houston was listening to when she died.
No, is that true? That's amazing that you know that.
Depressing that was.
What made her fall asleep.
I didn't know that.
Depeche Mode will be at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I hope they don't put rope in the gift bags.
This is why.
Depressing.
This is why everyone should listen to this show, because you learn important historical facts.
Depeche Mode, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, proving that rock and roll doesn't have to be fun.
or have guitars in it. Yeah.
T-Rex got in.
Yeah, T-Rex got in. So I bought that song when I was a kid, Get It On, Bang a Gong.
Yeah.
That was a great song. It still is a great song.
Right.
A great guitar tone, and then it was a great groove, the nasty groove, the whole thing.
Hey,
I love T-Rex.
I never really listened to a lot of their albums or anything, but people have a lot of respect for them. I think, and they were obviously influenced a lot of people too.
Right.
Yeah.
Wasn't that Mark Bolan that was in that band?
Yeah, Mark Bolan. He died in the 70s, car crash.
Right, but didn't he go? He was in James Gang after that, right? Was that?
Was he?
Was that Tom? That's Tommy Bolan. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know. He died in a car crash. That's
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think we can't throw much shade on T-Rex. You know what I mean?
Unfortunately, this band T-Rex is also extinct, like the actual T-Rex.
Yeah. Well, that's not a great joke, but okay. You don't have not everybody could. They can't all be winners.
T-Rex's music is sleek and sexy and almost makes you forget how nerdy it is to name your band after dinosaurs.
Well, that's okay. It's a little bit better.
Biggie Smalls, Notorious B.I.G. in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Jason. Did you ever meet that guy when you were starting out?
No, I never met him. I was always in the rock and roll business. I never really went into the hip hop stuff because I didn't really know. I didn't have a way in. But, obviously one of the biggest influences on hip hop and on music in general. And, and I could kind of, I actually see that because at some point, rock and roll became square.
Yeah.
And fucking hip hop became rock and roll. So I think there's a blurred line there. You know, when rock stars became boring, hip hop stars became the new rock stars.
Interesting.
You know, I mean, DMX was stealing cars at LaGuardia Airport where he was making $5 million a movie and selling tons of records. You know, I mean, and meanwhile, you know, I mean, I don't want to name too many names, but you will, of some of these bands who look like they came from work at the 7-Eleven and forgot to change clothes before they got on stage. And it's like, you know.
I get so mad. We just look like a rock star.
Yeah, give us a little show.
Stop wearing jeans and a T-shirt. I want to see the outfit.
You know, like a little shtick is good.
Dress for the job you want.
You know, Thank you. Ed's on his fucking game, man. He's got his A game on today.
Biggie was known best for his beef with Tupac, and we all know how Biggie felt about beef.
Oh.
I don't need your groaning. Save your groans for when you're talking to the parole board.
Thank you.
Biggie was taken from us too soon. He had at least another 5 to 6 more years before he got a heart attack. Biggie's murder is still unsolved, continuing a long tradition of the LAPD not solving shit.
You can get behind that one, Jason.
No comment.
9 Inch Nails in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Is that a touchy subject?
No, that's a no-brainer. I mean, you know.
Is it?
Don't you think?
I mean, I don't really.
Are you describing their fans?
Oh, I mean, listen. You know, I mean, they really did it. They did it in a way I don't think anybody's really done it before. I mean, they went out there DIY, went on the road. And I mean, I remember when I was going around in clubs and looking at other bands, and like everybody was talking about 9 Inch Nails. They would go into a town and just fucking leave everybody just on the floor. Yeah. And, you know, and it's real rock and roll too with the guitars and the head like a hole and all that shit. I mean, come on. Yeah. A rock and roll, that's a no-brainer. What the question is really why it took so long. Although I guess it's 25 years. You have to. So is this the first time they were nominated? Because maybe that's why.
That might be.
Yeah, so there you go. That's why they're in. But yeah, we can't even debate that. 9 Inch Nails, fucking. It's even a good name. I don't know what it means, but it's a good name.
Yeah, Johnny Cash covered their song "Hurt" right before he passed away. Everyone was blown away. No one could believe that they could like a Trent Reznor song. I don't know.
Pretty rock and roll too. Johnny Cash was a pretty big rock star in his own right. You
know?
Oh,
absolutely.
That's
but
cool.
Yeah, but it is. I mean, while we're on the subject of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I mean, it's pretty confusing. I mean, I stopped going until for a while there. I said to people that there were important people at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I said, until you guys let Alice Cooper in. I mean, not that maybe you don't care if I come or not, but I ain't coming until Alice Cooper's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Alice Cooper's not in the Rock.
He is now.
Oh, okay.
But he was eligible for a long time before he got in. I mean, you want to talk about a first ballot motherfucker?
Yeah,
that's him, right? That guy invented half of the shit we know and love.
Right.
You know, the guy was a genius at this stuff.
So Alice Cooper snubbed?
He was snubbed several times before he got in. It's crazy. I mean, how many great songs did that guy have? And the coolest album covers, and the coolest
and the
name.
most rock and roll song ever. Like "School's Out" was like a lot of kids' first understanding of what rock and roll how it could make you feel. You know,
we could sit here and name 15 to 20 incredible Alice Cooper songs. "I'm 18," "Under My Wheels," "$1 Billion Babies," right. "Only Women Bleed." Like that was maybe one of the first great rock ballads ever, right? And then he had. Oh my God, there was so many of them. I can't even go back and school. I'm thinking about "School's Out."
Him with the Muppets was great.
Him with the that's right. Him with the Muppets, and also him with the whole stage show, right?
I mean, the stage show is unbelievable. "Feed My Frankenstein," when he just sits there and puts his body back together after someone else hacks it up 2 songs before. It's great.
How about "Welcome to My Nightmare" and all that stuff, right? I mean, I saw that tour. That was the first show. I think it was the second show I ever saw at Madison Square Garden. I think Elton John made the first one. I don't know, it was one or the other, but it was unbelievable. He had Susie Quattro opening for him back.
He turned bats into pets. Who else had pet bats before Alice Cooper?
And he wore a snake around, and meanwhile, he was never, he's never shy about the fact that it was all an act too. He was always Vincent Fernier or whatever his name was. Right? He was playing golf, but he put that show on, and he wasn't playing, but God, I can't believe I'm spacing out. There's so many more great songs of his that you can't even,
I'm sure, hopefully he'll be there at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and he'll perform them all. What were the big snubs?
Big snubs this year. Well, the biggest, because they do the fan vote now, and number 1 and 2 on the fan vote didn't get in. That was Pat Benatar and Dave Matthews Band. And say whatever you want about Dave Matthews Band, but I mean, they deserve to be in there. They were huge. Those 5 albums they put out were just gigantic, and everyone selling out stadiums across the world for years.
Yeah.
And then
I think it was more America than the rest of the world, but no, there's no question they were, sensational. I mean, they get so talented, and I don't know why Dave Matthews is not. It's all confusing me. Is Jethro Tull in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
From what I know, Jethro Tull is in the Hall of Fame because they weren't on the list of people who could be nominated this year. And if they're not even able to be nominated, then that's a different sin altogether. But here's the big snubs for this year were Motorhead, which is crazy. They should be in there. Thin Lizzy, Soundgarden, MC5, which why they're not in there makes me insane.
They must have been eligible for years already.
Oh, yeah, forever.
Talk about people who went to jail for no fucking reason,
yeah,
too.
That's right.
And Judas Priest. You should, every year, MC5 does this great event called Jail Guitar Doors. It's about getting people out of jail, and Wayne Kramer hosts it with like a slew of people.
No, he's got a fascinating story. I mean, he's a real guy, and I've heard about that, and it's great. By the way, did you ever hear the story about when Motorhead played at the Marquee in London? And after the show, it's supposedly a true story. They're sitting around backstage, and one of the guys goes, I think it was the bass player, goes, "Fuck!" And the guy goes, "What's wrong?" He goes, "We forgot to play the bloody single." And the drummer goes, "What do you mean? I played it." I don't know if it's true, but I hope so. On the other hand, I don't even care. It's just fucking great, And it could be true.
Are you going to the Grammys this weekend?
I am going to the Grammys this weekend.
You have any irons in the fire? Anybody you're rooting for?
I have nobody nominated this year. Last year, Greta Van Fleet won an award, which was really exciting.
I've seen them with you. They're a great band, and I know you worked with Lord, who you turned me on to, and you really have a good ear, a good eye for all this stuff, Jason.
There's a great Grammy hack. You want to know a Grammy hack? This is amazing. If you go to the Grammys, if you get a seat on the floor, don't say I told you this.
Yeah.
It's top secret. But you get a seat on the floor, right? And you're sitting in your seat, and then you just can walk around, and in between commercials,
right.
Most of the seats are they're seat fillers, right? They're people who are paid to sit in the seats.
Yeah.
And so they wear a little ribbon on them or something, so you know that they're seat fillers.
Right.
So you could just walk up to the third row and be like, "Buddy, that's my seat." And
they don't know.
They don't know. They get up, you sit down, and you're sitting next to, Dave Matthews, right? Like, Dave, I think you should be in the Rock Wall. We'll get Ed up there in the third row. He'll do a whole speech about the whole thing.
I think that's how you got President Clinton to free all those people.
Well, I'm just saying, it's not a bad look, you know what I mean?
Wonderful.
It's like, and actually, it's crazy last year.
Yeah.
And I can't believe I'm saying this on the air. But last year, it's a true story. I went to the week of the Grammys on Monday. I was down in Death Row in Texas visiting this guy, Rob Will, who's an innocent guy in Death Row. And then I flew out here, and I did all this wind up. I probably saw you that trip. I don't remember. And I end up going to the Grammys on Sunday. I went with my son, and we end up sitting in the front row. And I was flying back on Monday. I was like, holy shit, what a week. Monday I was on death row, and then I'm in the front row. Like, death row in the front row. If life's about juxtaposition, that's pretty good.
That's your next label, Front Row Records.
It's literally the opposite, right? So, it's never boring. I'll tell you that much. But, yeah, it's, for people who haven't been, it's a fun thing to go to the Grammys. It's a different experience.
That's really cool, man. Congrats on your success, man.
Thank you.
All those cool artists.
Yeah, a lot of cool artists. I got some good new ones coming up, too. It's going to be a good year,
Who's the new ones?
Well, I'm just launching a few new ones. I have this black rock band from Atlanta called Hero the Band. These guys are amazing. 4 brothers. They look like Migos, and they sound like fucking Nirvana.
I know these guys.
You do?
They came into my Roast Masters pop-up. I did a pop-up.
Oh, I saw a picture of you with them. That's right.
I did a pop-up coffee shop, and they popped in.
That's
right. What cool guys! They hung out for hours, talking comedy. They came on stage, and I roasted them a little bit. I can't remember what I said, but they were really good sports and cool guys.
Yeah, they'll be on the ballot in 30 years or something. But so they're great. I have a new artist called Some Girl Named Anna, who's like a little, I don't know. I describe her as like if Lorde and Tracy Chapman had a baby and Adele was the midwife. She's sort of like, she's so beautiful. We're getting ready to release that on February 28th. And her first single has no instruments on it. It's all a cappella. It's pretty cool. It's called Hello I Am. So I'm excited about that.
How do people, if they want to get a record deal, or I know you hear this question, but like, I guess it's kind of like finding people for Innocence Project. It's like, how do you get through the craziness of the world and the red tape and everything to go, listen to this? Like, how do you find your artist? Do you go out and hear people? Are there certain people that bring you ideas? And, you know, do you have a P.O. box and you wait for that mixtape from heaven?
You know, you walk around with your head down, and once in a while you bump into a genius. You know, that's basically how it works with this business. But no, you know, my inbox. You know, I get people emailing me music all the time, and
do you have a certain day of the week that you're like, Tuesdays afternoons I listen to all these tapes?
No, I'm not that organized. But thanks for thinking of me that way. But no, I don't have any real, you know, regimented schedule. I just, you know, sometimes. You know, I'm in the right place, the right frame of mind. I mean, but yeah, the last several acts. I mean, I found Lord that way, just opening emails. I found Greta Van Fleet. You know, Some Girl Named Anna's another one who just popped up in my inbox. And we're getting ready to launch a rock band, you guys I think will love, called South of Eden as well. Or just killer rock band from Ohio. But yeah, so that's sort of the modern way that it happens. It used to be more word of mouth. You know, somebody would call me and say, go to a club, see a thing or whatever. Or I'd get CDs in the mail. You know, or, you know, Tori Amos's tape I found on somebody else's desk. You know, it was wrapped up in stationery for the United Methodist Church of Potomac.
What?
And I was like, that's weird. Yeah, because her father was a reverend. He sent it in. I was like, maybe God sent this. Let me go check it out, you know. As it turns out, he did.
Wow.
You know. So, yeah, that was a good one. Hey, we managed to work religion into the show today. That's pretty good.
It really worked out.
How about that? Yeah, you know, a couple of Jews talking about religion. What else is new? And Ed, what the hell? I don't even know what you are.
Me, atheist.
Oh, yeah, me too. There you go. But
I went to Catholic school, though, and I was raised, my father's Jewish, so I'm all mixed up.
My father and his father were brothers.
Oh, yeah. Wow, okay.
Yeah, we're cousins.
Well,
it's a family business here.
That stands. I'm not a genealogist, but that makes sense to me. You know what I mean? It's like it's like that T-shirt.
No, we were doing this podcast for a while, and we didn't even know we were related, and then we did an Ancestry.com. No, I'm just kidding.
He had me too. I'm standing like, oh, this is a fascinating story. You know, it's a good thing the coffee was good.
We don't really preach religion on this podcast, but we are spiritual, and
absolutely,
and we like to pay respects to people we care about, things that we care about. It's time for Roast in Peace.
Roast in Peace this week is it's official. The Planters Peanut guy is dead. He served the Planters Corporation for 104 long years. This is the statement that was put out by Planters. It's with heavy hearts that we confirm Mr. Peanut has passed away at 104 years old. He will be remembered as the legume who always brought people together for nutty adventures and a good time.
I mean, Mr. Peanut also responsible for killing all those poor kids that were allergic to peanuts.
That's
right?
a good point.
So, I mean, you know, it goes around, it comes around. I don't know. I'm just saying we can't forget them either.
Those
I'm
kids
allergic
shouldn't
to
have been
nuts,
playing
not
with
peanuts,
butter.
though, luckily.
Mr. Peanut was one of the great marketing cartoons of all time. When Joe Camel was asked to make a statement, he said, this wasn't Mr. Peanut's first brush with death. In the 40s, he was almost killed during a press event with Dumbo.
That's funny.
Makes me happy.
Jimmy Carter has not been taking the news well. Some say he seems shell-shocked.
Shell-shocked. You know, can he even still be shell-shocked at 95 years old? I don't know.
Mr. Peanut broke down race barriers when he worked with George Washington Carver to help him show over 300 ways he could be useful. Speaking of Peanut, shout out to all the guys out there with little dicks and big balls. Mr. Peanut is survived by his daughters, Megumi and Shelley. Roast in peace, roasted peanuts. Roast in peanuts, Mr. Peanut. The end of an era. 95 years old.
104.
104 years old. It's funny, like, he really is a show business figure because he has, like, a special Hollywood Walk of Fame star in front of the Melrose Improv.
Does he really?
Yeah.
Good for him. Good old Mr. Peanut.
Yeah. All right, folks. Thanks for listening. I always feel better after these podcasts. It's cathartic. It's good to have a friend on. Jason, I know you got a lot of important work to get back to. What are you going to do tonight? You got big music business plans?
Oh,
Gonna
yeah,
go to
actually,
Mr.
tonight
Chow?
I'm doing the music business thing. I'm actually going to go to Spotify's having a big event, pre-Grammy event. So I'm going to go to that with my son.
That's cool.
My son, Mike. Shout out to Mike Flom. And
Hi, Mike. I know
yep,
Mike.
Yep. He loves his Uncle Jeff. I told him I was coming over here. It's crazy fucking uncle.
Next time, bring him.
And yeah, I was going to, but he was working. But yeah, so we're gonna go to that, and then we'll see where the night takes us. But I think that's a good enough plan for tonight.
I'll be at the Comedy Store at 10:15 if you guys want to come by.
Oh, nice. All right,
Yeah.
good to know.
All right, Jason Flom, thank you so much, folks. Don't forget to listen to the Wrongful Conviction podcast. Follow Jason on Instagram and
It's Jason Flom. That's right.
FLOM. Good guy.
Yeah. And the Innocence Project, you can follow them on Twitter at Innocence and Instagram Innocence Project. Or you just go to their website, theinnocenceproject.org, for more information on what's going on over there. You can go to roastmastergeneral.com for all things Jeff Ross. You can pick up your emotional support human shirt there. You just go to the merch page. And you go pick it up there. And along with I'm Offended by People Who Are Always Offended, baseball tees and mugs. And Bumping Mics is back on the road, baby. Just got back from Texas. Now they're going to Milwaukee. March 13th, Pabst Theater. You ready for it?
I'm ready.
All right.
Kansas City, Iowa,
Chicago. March and April.
Roastmastergeneral.com. Go get tickets. Come see me and Dave.
The solo shows are coming too. Super Bowl weekend in Miami, baby.
That'll be fun.
I will. That is January 31st and February 1st.
The Miami Improv. That'll be a good one. And then Phoenix is
the next weekend.
Okay, good.
And that's 2/6 through 2/8. You're going to be at CB Live on 2/6, and then you're going to be at Stand Up Live across town on 2/7 and 2/8.
Great.
5 shows in 3 days, man. You're hitting it hard.
Lots of new material, man. Gearing up for a funny 2020.
You can find us on Twitter at ThickSkinCast, Instagram, ThickSkin with Jeff Ross, and Real Jeffrey Ross is also on Twitter and Instagram. And you can also check out Jeff on Cameo if you like to. And you rate and review our show, Thick Skin with Jeff Ross, on iTunes and anywhere else they let you rate the thing. And email us at thickskinwithjeffross@gmail.
Rate me, my friends. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening to Thick Skin. Thank you, Ed. Thank you, other Ed. We'll see you guys next time. Damn. I'm in New York. Talking the talk. I'm doing the podcast. Full tank of gas. I got Cousin Ed and Gary too. I got the thick skin blues. Having a drink. My armpits stink.
Hey.
I'm feeling so good, I'm in the hood, I don't want it to end. I got the thick skin blues.
Thick skin blues.